Today I want to talk about something that can be very important and personal. It is for me. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. If you're looking for different ways to bring your parents to Sweden, then this video is for you. Let's get started. Before I get into the different visa options, I want to share you my personal story. I know your time is valuable, I do not want to waste it. But I believe my story is relevant for this topic. It is important that you hear stories from different people so that you can take and apply what is relevant for you. It is not always by the book. So here it goes. This was in 2018. I was working in the UK. When I got a job in Volvo, I decided to relocate to Sweden. And before moving to Sweden, I decided to take a break and went to India. My parents were getting old and my plan was to bring them with me to Sweden after I settled down in Sweden. One of the reasons I chose Sweden was also because I knew Sweden allows you to bring your parents with you as dependents. For me, I didn't know the struggles at that time. But life had other plans. When I reached home, my father was in the hospital. He had a fever. The day I landed, I went straight to the hospital and he was in the ICU. Soon we realized it wasn't just a fever. He had late-stage cancer. My whole world turned upside down. I had already planned my life together with them. I wanted to live together with them because we were that close to each other. But in just 2 weeks' time, my dad passed away. It was the hardest time of my life. I started questioning all the decisions I made. I will not bore you with the details. But earlier, he had already made it clear that I shouldn't stay back at India. I should still go to Sweden. I extended my joining date. I stayed in India for a while and then I moved to Sweden. But now it was just my mom alone in India. Of course, I have wonderful relatives, but still, it's not the same. I settled in Sweden and within 2 months' time, I went back to India to visit my mom. After spending a couple of weeks with her, I came back again and right away applied for dependent visa for her. And that's when I realized something very important. To apply for dependent visa for your parents in Sweden, you need permanent residence. I didn't have that. But I still went to Migration Verket, that is a migration agency in Sweden, for checking all the different possibilities. I was that desperate. They were very kind, they understood my situation and they said, "You can still apply. The chances are low, but give it a try." So I applied for dependent visa for my mom even though I didn't have permanent residence. And I waited and waited and waited. It took 8 months to get the decision. And in the end, as expected, the application was rejected. But the rejection letter was optimistic because by that time I realized that it was very rare and uncommon to get dependent visa for your parents in Sweden. In the rejection letter, they said, "Apply again when you get permanent residence." And I was relieved because I found out that you need a really strong motivation, reasons to bring your parents as dependents to Sweden. Because the culture in Sweden or Western countries is very different compared to India. The parents, even when they get older, is not by default dependent of their adult children. There are other conditions. At this point, I had already realized that dependent visa is going to take years and I couldn't sit and wait for years. So while the dependent visa was still in process, I took another approach. I applied for a Schengen Visa for my mom. Usually, when you have an ongoing case, it is not advised to apply for another visa because it may lead to rejection. For example, in my case, since my mom has already applied for dependent visa, it means she wants to stay with me long term. They can reject the short-term visa saying there is a chance that she will not leave Sweden. But I consulted with the migration agency again and they asked me to attach a cover letter explaining my situation, why I need my mom with me and why it is important for her. Be aware, reasons are very important in Sweden. That's where some of us fail. Due to the cultural differences, our reasoning may not be the right reason for Sweden. Thankfully, she got the Schengen Visa. She came to Sweden in August 2019 and we were together. Seeing that she was happy here, I applied for the long-term visitor permit. The reason I stated was exactly the same and a bit more. Since I had the power of attorney, it was possible for me to apply the long-term visitor permit on her behalf. And again, she got the permit. This became our pattern. She would come on a Schengen visa, and if everything is going well, then I will extend it to long-term visitor permit. Then she would go back to India, and this continued. Last year in September, something important happened. I received permanent residence permit in Sweden. I was waiting for it. Some of you might wonder why I didn't get a permanent residence earlier if I have came here in 2018 on a work permit. That's a story for another time. In 2024, the moment I received PR, I waited for nothing. I applied for dependent visa for my mom right away. This time again, I added all the details, our entire story, my situation, everything. Now I am waiting for the decision. I don't know what will happen, but I am hopeful. And of course, I will update you the status of the result when I get it. So if you're planning to bring your parents here, there are 3 different options in front of you. Schengen visa, the fastest and the easiest way to bring your parents here on a short period of time. You can get maximum 90 days of stay here. You will get the decision in 14 days. In my case, it didn't even take more than a week. The second option is the long-term visitor permit. This visa will give you the option to stay for at least 1 year. But that depends. If you're already in Sweden on a Schengen visa, then it is possible to extend that visa to make it long-term visitor permit. Or you can apply for it directly from India without applying for the Schengen visa. You can go ahead with the long-term visitor permit. It will take a couple of weeks to get the decision. Also, please note, the extension is not guaranteed. They need a valid reason to extend the visa. Also, migration agency prefers us to apply for the long-term visitor visa if we have a plan to stay here for more than 90 days from the beginning itself, instead of coming here on a Schengen visa and extending it. The third option is the dependent visa. But this is an option only if you have permanent resident and there are certain strict criteria to meet. Also, it will take months for the decision. I hope my story and experience help you in some way. Next, I will explain the entire process of the different visa options and the tips and tricks that I learned. However, I think it is best to do it in a separate video. I can attach the links to the different visa options in the description below. Go through it and comment down below your questions if you have any. Then I can accommodate those questions in my next video. If you found this video useful, stick around. I'll see you in my next video.